Tokozani, welcome to my channel. I am Gogo Thule Ngane. I am a Sangoma healer, priestess, medicine woman, and a spiritual teacher. I'm basically a guide on this beautiful journey of life for those who are on a spiritual path and who are seeking understanding about who they are from a cultural and conscious perspective. So every year I review the information around connecting with our ancestors, connecting with our guides, connecting with an African form of spirituality, or at least sharing from that perspective so that no matter who you are, no matter what background you are, you can begin to understand yourself from a spiritual space. And so I want to go over the basics and also add some context and some guidance to help us navigate the path. Some of the things that I talk a lot about, people are already doing, or people already have a lot of information about, but they're not using, or they're navigating and they're just unsure, or they're frustrated, or they're confused, or they don't feel like anything's happening at all, and a number of different things. So I want to start off by just talking about altars, because that is usually the first step or the first information that we come into understanding about our ancestors. A lot of times in royal or more indigenous or in more in spaces where people are still honoring these traditions, you will see that there is a ndumba or a roundhouse or a corner of the home or a room in the house where the ancestors are honored, where certain artifacts, certain elements are used and placed in a sacred way so that we can invite the ancestors into our physical reality. They are definitely with us in our bones. They are definitely with us in our blood. They are definitely with us in our heart, in our minds. And so we are the altar. And this creation of an altar is about exploring that physical space, bringing them into the home, having a place where you can spend time with them, having a place where they can, because you're doing this consistently or regularly, they are recognizing, and thus we are creating a portal between ourselves and the spiritual realm, between our prayers and the angels and guardians and the creator that we are connected to. And so one of the basic ways that altars are formed is that they are either placed on the ground or on a table, and you usually involve the four elements: the earth, the air, the fire, and the water. It can involve pictures, it can involve rocks and crystals, it can involve incense, it can involve all of these different elements. And I try to stay very general and very fluid in terms of instructions to people, because no matter who you are, no matter what part of the world you are, whether you're on the African continent, whether you're in the diaspora, whether you're somewhere else entirely, most of us come from many different lineages. Even if you just think about your mother and your father, this is two different groups of people that you are connected to, two ways and approaches of life that you are connected to. And so when you begin to approach altar work and setting up an altar, it's important to acknowledge who you are and what you know now. At this point, if you have a strong connection to water, you want to use and pour a glass of water on and keep that at your altar. Water is a very powerful mirror into the spiritual realm. It takes our prayers and our words and activates our vision in a really beautiful way. Candles are a really great way to set intention, to use the energy of passion and transformation and fire. Incense and smoke allows for our prayers to go up into the other realms, into the heavens. And the stones and the rocks and the crystals are portals of knowledge and wisdom. And so it doesn't have to be, it can be one of these things, it can be all of these things. It can be pictures of past family members. It can be pictures of just spiritual symbols that resonate with you, the Ankh, the Om, certain sacred geometry. It can be anything that inspires you. And a lot of times we already have these things set up in our home as decoration or home decor. And so an altar is just about a more conscious way of bringing these items together so that you can do work to honor your soul, your higher self, God, and your angels in the form of ancestors. When you have an altar set up, you want to actually work with it. You want to use prayer, or what I consider to be entering codes into the universe. You want to use meditation. You want to use the sacred religious or spiritual practice of making offerings. So making offerings means that you're giving something in exchange for the gratitude, in exchange for the request, in exchange for the petition, in exchange for the questions that you are answering and that you're asking and thus seeking answers for. And so this is how we begin to engage the spiritual realm, engage our chakras, engage the energies. It becomes a conversation. And I do have a blog post that I will put in the link below that talks about how I communicate with spirit and the concept of ancestral prayers. You know, you want to call upon the ancestors that you know of that were elevated, that were helpful, that you had good and positive relationships with in your life. You want to call upon your mother's lineage and your father's lineage, because that is what you are directly have access to. You want to state your name, because your name is also a code that alerts certain spirits and energies in the spiritual realm, so that they can acknowledge you and come and sit and listen to what you have to say. You know, a lot of times, even though we live in different circumstances in these modern times, our names have to do with the people that loved us. It has to do with our ancestors. And so that is a big part, is setting up the altar, is opening up the communication, telling them how you really feel, telling them what you're asking about, telling them about, you know, what you want to be revealed, that, you know, maybe they've been interacting with you, maybe you've been sensing and feeling like you need to do this. And it's like, you can talk to them about gaining that clarity, and inviting them into your life, inviting them into your relationships, inviting them into your work, into your career. Our ancestors care about all of the things that we are living in our lives. Another thing that I talk a lot about is relearning and understanding the signs and symbols and omens of spirit. How your ancestors speak to you is unique to you. You know, we definitely have commonalities in the sense that some of us can have visions, some of us can hear voices, some of us feel sensations in our bodies. The only way that you will begin to develop and understand this is by meditating, is by working with your own energy field. Not only there's so much talk about understanding the chakras, and it's very important to work with your chakras, to do meditations where you're feeling the energy and noticing the changes. From my traditional perspective, our intuition speaks to us greatly through our dreams. So recording our dreams, paying attention to the symbols and the events and the circumstances that happen in our dreams, so that we can begin to understand this language, because the language is very different from English, or very different from, you know, some of the human ways of communicating. And there's a lot more pictures, there's a lot more symbols, there's a lot more stories that we can interpret. And so we just have to open ourselves up to come out of our conscious mind, to come out of our conditioning, to come out of our logical, analytical, critical way of observing everything in this world, and to embrace the imagination, embrace the childlike way of seeing things. And in doing so, it's important to affirm your intuition, to affirm the fact that you're seeing, to not dismiss the little thing that you saw in the corner of your eye, or that sensation that you felt in the middle of the night that you woke up and started to feel and sense some things. Instead of constantly pushing those things aside and saying, it's not real, it's not there, that probably doesn't mean anything. We want to affirm and begin to say, like, no, this is real. And I'm open to understanding. I'm open to seeing. I'm open to knowing. Makhosi. Another aspect of connecting with our ancestors, connecting with the spiritual realm, is through the art of divination, through the art of tapping into the past, present, and future. Yeah. Tapping into the knowledge of the oracles and the knowledge of the elders. It was very common for many of us in our lineages to consult an oracle in times of war, to consult an oracle when a child was born, to name that child, to consult the oracles when making decisions about relationships and marriages, to consult the oracles in all of these things. It was our way of understanding when to move, when to enter certain lands and enter certain spaces in nature. We would see from a higher perspective, or from the realm of spirit, what is really going on, what is at the root of this illness, what is happening. A lot of times we're sensing and feeling things, and the oracles and divination is one way to understand the depth that the spiritual realm is speaking to us, and the experiences that we're living are teaching us about ourselves. I also talk a lot about connecting with our ancestors through ritual and ceremony. Ceremony is the space where the drums and the songs and the prayers and the rituals are generated in such a high vibrational way that our intentions can go up into the spiritual realm in a more profound way, or our chakras and our energy field can open up in such a way that we really feel and have experiences with our ancestors, with our guides, with our totems, with the spirits and the forces of nature. And so, like any other spiritual path, you want to go to the temple. You want to spend time with the priest. You want to sit at the feet of the elders and learn. You want to go in those spaces where you can fully receive those activations in a way that you feel affirmed. A lot of us are having spiritual awakening symptoms, spiritual awakening moments that are confusing because we're in a hospital space, or we're in a building and the lights are a certain way and there's no sacredness. Yes. And there's no elder there to be able to say, like, I see exactly who that is. Yes, I see exactly what that is. And this is what this person needs to help them understand, to help them navigate. And so, just like if you were studying Buddhism or you were studying Catholicism or whatever, you would go to the temple and spend time doing the rituals and understanding the context of this path. A lot of African spirituality, though is written about, can only be lived and only be experienced. There are things that your ancestors want to show you in a certain context and in a certain space. And so ceremony is one of the ways that we can do that. I also have a video where I talk about connecting with our ancestors for those of us who are in the diaspora, because we don't have access to certain information about our lineages and the cultures that we come from. It's just important to continue to inquire, continue to learn about your people, your family, and the things that they do, even the things that they do that they have forgotten why. It's just what we do. It's just the way that we cook. It's just the ingredients that we use. That is a part of who you are, and ways that your ancestors connect with you. One guidance thing that I wanted to share as well is that as you walk on the spiritual journey, your shadow is going to come through. So when we go on a spiritual journey, or we become more conscious that we are on a spiritual journey, we're going to experience our light, and we're also going to experience our shadow. We're going to experience our darkness. We're going to experience our sadness and our grief and our pain and our traumas and our joy and our blessings and our spiritual gifts and abilities. Makhosi. And so I say this because sometimes we start this spiritual journey and we expect, or we hope for our lives to become better, for things to be great and to manifest powerfully and all of these things. And I'm just saying that it's also normal to experience sadness, to experience anxiety, or to experience feeling disconnected or off, because things are, as you're doing your meditations, energy is moving and things are being shifted and pushed out of the way, or things are coming up to the surface so that you can see that it's there to begin with. So many things that are hidden and locked in our unconscious, or locked in certain parts of our body that we haven't touched in a long time or haven't even thought about in a long time, are gonna come up because they want to be healed. They want to be recognized. Some of these pains are connected to ancestors who had unresolved issues, unresolved traumas, or unresolved ways that they passed away, that are living through the blockages and the fears that you hold. And so this is a big part of the journey, and something to not be afraid of, or to not just let it shut you down, but to let it keep you moving forward, because we are being not only called to connect with our ancestors, but to heal and do the work for ourselves and for them in ways that improve our lives, in ways that bring balance and harmony with the earth, with each other, with the community, with the society, and the overall collective. So the last thing that I wanted to share is, on this journey, especially for me, I've had to accept sometimes the fact that I'm different. You know, one of the things about spirituality versus religion is that there's just so much fluidity. There's such a greater range of spiritual expressions and different types of spirits that we're connected to. And, you know, with spirituality, there's so many advices about this type of meditation to do, and this type of ritual, or this type of spell. And I just want to acknowledge how important it is to listen to yourself, how important it is to acknowledge sometimes that you may need to do things differently, that you may need to adjust this a little differently because you are experiencing something in a different way. You may have different sounds and different voices and different just expressions. There's so many different expressions. There's so many different types of ancestors, and it's okay to be different, you know. I've definitely been in spiritual circles and spaces where I felt like I couldn't express myself, or I just had different things going on. I was just the only person in the room doing certain things. So it just took some time for me to accept myself. And so I just thought I should mention that, because it's a part of the journey. And I have listened to people in my sessions and in my work and in my retreats just express feeling a little bit alone, or feeling like the only one. And it really is that we are all different. And also, a lot of us are just spread out all across the world and experiencing very similar things. So I wanted to acknowledge that. I think that's everything that I wanted to share in this video. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I just hope that you continue to experience blessings and strength and love and courage on your journey with your ancestors. So goes on.